It happened on a quiet Sunday morning, the kind where everything feels still, almost too still. I had just stepped into the shower, thinking I had the house to myself. The door was closed, not locked, because I never thought it needed to be. We're family, after all, or at least that's what I told myself. But what happened next caught me completely off guard. I was rinsing the shampoo from my hair when I heard the door creak open. My heart stopped for a second. I thought maybe it was the wind or maybe I'd imagined it. But then I heard footsteps, slow, hesitant, unsure. When I turned slightly through the foggy glass, I saw a shadow. And it was him, my stepson. He froze. And so did I. We didn't say anything, not a word. Just silence, thick and heavy like the steam around us. I should have said something. I should have told him to get out. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I was shocked. Maybe I wanted to avoid making it worse. Maybe part of me didn't want to escalate it into something dramatic. But in that moment, I just stood there, unsure what to feel, what to do. He didn't stay long, just a few seconds. Then the door closed again, and he was gone. But those few seconds, those changed everything. After that day, something shifted between us, not in a way that broke any rules, but in a way that made every interaction feel a little heavier, a little more loaded with unspoken thoughts. I've replayed that moment in my head more times than I can count, wondering what he was thinking and why I didn't stop him. But what happened later is what truly shook me, and that part of the story is just beginning. The days after that moment felt strange, like I was walking through a fog I couldn't quite shake. At first, I thought maybe he'd pretend it never happened, and maybe that would make it easier. But he didn't. He wasn't acting the same, not in a dramatic way, just different. More quiet around me. His eyes didn't linger, but they didn't avoid me either. There was a tension in the air I couldn't name, but it followed us through every conversation, every room. It didn't help that we'd only recently started living under the same roof. I married his father just 6 months ago. He was polite back then, always kept to himself, respectful but distant. He wasn't a kid. He was 20 in college and only came home on weekends. I figured we were still adjusting to the new family dynamic, and maybe that was why we hadn't bonded much. I didn't push. I thought giving him space was the right thing, but now I wasn't sure about anything. That weekend, I found myself noticing things I hadn't before. The way he paused before entering a room I was in, the way his expression shifted when our eyes met. And maybe the most confusing part, how aware I suddenly became of his presence. It was like that one incident opened a door I didn't want open, but couldn't shut either. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking. But when his father asked if everything was okay between us, I froze for a second too long before answering. "Yeah, of course, why?" I said, forcing a casual tone. He shrugged. "I don't know. He just seems off, distant, not like himself." I didn't know what to say. How could I explain something I didn't fully understand myself? That night, I lay awake longer than I should have. Every creak in the house made me tense up. I kept thinking back to that morning, trying to figure out if it was truly accidental or if it meant something more. My mind circled the same questions, but the answers never came. The next morning I found a folded towel on the bathroom counter, neatly placed, like someone had thought about it, like a small, silent gesture. I hadn't put it there, and in that quiet moment, standing barefoot on the cold tile floor, I realized something. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. The towel stayed on my mind longer than it should have. I didn't say anything about it, but I kept glancing at it each time I went into the bathroom, wondering why it was there and who had left it. It was clean, folded with care, something small but deliberate. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it meant everything. I didn't want to read too much into it, but the uneasy feeling in my chest wouldn't go away. The week passed slowly. His father got busier at work, coming home later, often too tired to talk much. That left me and my stepson in the same space more than I was used to. We weren't having conversations, but we were moving around each other more, passing in the kitchen, crossing paths in the hallway. Every time there was a quiet energy, something unspoken that neither of us dared bring up. I started noticing things I hadn't before, how he always left his door slightly open now, how he'd glance toward me when he thought I wasn't looking. Then one evening, I overheard a conversation that gave me more questions than answers. He was on the phone, door half open. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I froze when I heard my name. "No, it's weird now," he said in a low voice. "I don't think she knows what to do about it either." There was a pause, then a quiet laugh. "No, it's not like that. She didn't say anything, that's the thing. She just let it happen." I didn't stay to hear the rest. My heart was pounding. It wasn't just me. He'd felt that shift too, and now he was talking about it to someone else. I didn't know if that made it better or worse. That night at dinner, I couldn't look him in the eye. His father was talking about a weekend trip he had to take for work. "You two will have the house to yourselves for a few days," he said casually, not noticing the way my stomach sank. The silence that followed was thick. I forced a smile. Sounds quiet, but inside, I felt the tension build even more. There were too many things unsaid, too many thoughts we were both avoiding, and now, with his father leaving, the space between us didn't feel like space anymore. It felt like something waiting to happen. The night before his father left, I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, my mind racing with every possible outcome of being alone in the house with him. I told myself I was overreacting, that nothing would happen, that this was all in my head. But no matter how I tried to calm myself, there was a tightness in my chest I couldn't ignore. I kept thinking about the phone call, about the towel, about the moment in the bathroom. None of it made sense on its own, but together it felt like something was building, something neither of us had the courage to speak out loud. The next morning, he left early. His suitcase by the door, a kiss on my cheek, and a simple, "Take care of the place while I'm gone." I nodded, smiling like everything was fine. As soon as the door closed behind him, the air felt heavier, like the walls knew what I was thinking. I stood there for a while, unsure of what to do, almost waiting for something to happen. But the house stayed quiet. For the next few hours, I kept busy, cleaning, cooking, anything to stay distracted. But by evening, I felt his presence again. He came downstairs slowly, quiet as ever, and we barely spoke. I made dinner and left his plate on the counter. He nodded in thanks but didn't sit down with me. That distance between us was louder than any conversation. Later that night, I went to the living room and turned on a movie, hoping it would drown out the noise in my head. I heard footsteps behind me, soft but steady. Then he appeared, standing by the doorway, not saying anything at first. "Mind if I sit?" he asked finally, voice low. I looked up, nodded once. He sat at the other end of the couch. We watched the screen in silence, but neither of us was really watching. The movie ended, but neither of us moved. I felt the weight of the moment settle over everything. The clock ticked softly in the background, and the only light came from the flicker of the TV screen. Then he spoke, barely above a whisper. "Do you ever think about that day?" I didn't answer right away. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Yes," I said finally. Another pause. Then, "Me too." His words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. I didn't know what he meant by that. I didn't want to ask. The room felt smaller somehow, like it was closing in on both of us. I stood up quickly, pretending I needed to tidy something, but my hands were shaking. I could feel his eyes on me, watching, waiting. Not pushing, but not walking away either. The storm outside had started by then, thunder low in the distance, a soft rain tapping against the windows. It was subtle, almost fitting. Everything inside me felt like that storm. Quiet now, but ready to break. The rain grew louder, a steady rhythm against the glass that seemed to echo the pulse in my ears. I busied myself in the kitchen, wiping an already clean counter, hoping the noise would calm me down. But it didn't. I couldn't ignore the way he was still sitting there, the way the weight of that one question, "Do you ever think about that day?" was still hanging between us like fog that wouldn't clear. Just when I thought things couldn't feel more unsettled, my phone buzzed on the counter. A text. I grabbed it quickly, more out of reflex than anything. It was from his father. "Hey, forgot to mention. My meeting got canceled. I'll be home earlier than planned. Possibly tonight if the weather clears. Miss you." My stomach dropped. I looked at the clock. It was already past 9. If he got on the road now, he'd be home by midnight. I glanced over my shoulder. My stepson was still there, still watching the muted TV screen, though I could tell he wasn't paying attention. I felt something shift in me then. The timing was too strange, too sudden. And that message, it didn't feel casual, not from him. I reread it and noticed something else. He never mentioned his meeting getting canceled earlier. In fact, just this morning, he was adamant about being gone for days. That's when it hit me. What if he hadn't left because of work? What if he had suspicions? What if he knew something or thought he did? The thought chilled me more than the storm outside. I tried to shake it off, but it kept circling in my mind. What if this whole setup, him leaving, us being alone in the house, wasn't accidental? What if he was testing us? I went back into the living room, trying to act normal. "Your dad just texted," I said, my voice carefully light. "Said he might come back tonight." He turned his head slowly. "Really? That soon?" I nodded. "Yeah, sounds like the weather's easing up." He didn't say anything, but something in his expression changed. Just for a second. I couldn't tell if it was disappointment, surprise, or something else. I sat down, keeping a safe space between us. But the air didn't feel safe at all. It felt like we were both standing on the edge of something we couldn't take back. And then came the second twist I never saw coming. He reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. He looked at it, then at me, and said, "You should probably see this." My mouth went dry. "What is it?" He hesitated. "Something I found on Dad's laptop. I wasn't looking, I swear. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it." I stared at him, trying to read his face. "What's on it?" He looked down. "Videos of you around the house, recorded without you knowing." My entire body went still. The room didn't feel small anymore. It felt like it was collapsing. My heart was pounding in my chest, a rapid thumping that drowned out the sounds of the storm outside. He held the flash drive in his hand, almost like a weapon, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was saying. Videos? Of me? It didn't make sense. It couldn't. "Why would you have that?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't look at me as he placed the drive on the coffee table between us. His fingers were trembling slightly. "I didn't mean to find them, but I did. And when I looked, I had to know why they were there." I felt a cold sweat breaking out on my skin. The room seemed to close in around me, as if the walls themselves were pressing in. "What do you mean? What videos?" "Of you," he repeated, voice shaky. "In the shower, in the hallway, in the kitchen, all over the house. They were there, hidden in files on Dad's laptop. It wasn't just one or two. It was a lot." My mind spun. This couldn't be happening. I tried to focus, to breathe, but every part of me felt numb. He was right about one thing. He wasn't lying. He couldn't have been. I'd seen my husband's laptop lying open once, and I'd noticed files that didn't belong to him. Files I'd brushed off as nothing. But I hadn't known what they contained. And then it hit me. I was the one who had been unaware. I had no idea how long it had been happening, How many times my privacy had been violated without my knowledge. The thought made my stomach turn, but I couldn't look away from him now. This was the truth. There was no running from it. "What are you going to do with it?" I asked, my voice steadying. He paused, his eyes meeting mine for the first time. "I don't know, but I had to show you. You need to know what's been going on behind your back. It's not just you, though." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" He swallowed hard. "There's more. He's been recording more than just you. He's been recording both of us." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What? How?" Before I could finish, the door swung open. My husband stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain, his eyes wide as he looked from the two of us to the flash drive. The tension in the room snapped like a wire. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he said slowly, his voice unnaturally calm. "But I never thought you'd find out like this." I froze. The betrayal was worse than anything I could have imagined. And then, as if on cue, the lights flickered and went out. The storm outside intensified, plunging the room into darkness. My heart raced, and for the first time that night, I felt truly trapped. The darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint hum of the storm outside. My heart was still racing, but the confusion had settled into something colder, something more certain. My husband stood there, his face shadowed by the dim light coming from the occasional flash of lightning. I could feel my stepson beside me, the weight of everything between us growing heavier with every passing second. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was thick, suffocating. Finally, my husband broke it, his voice quieter now, but still laced with tension. "I never meant for you to find out like this, but I knew it would happen sooner or later." I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. "Why? Why would you do this?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the flash drive on the coffee table, then back at us. "I wasn't just recording you. I was recording both of you because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand it. The distance, the tension, everything was changing. I thought if I could see it, if I could watch how you two interacted, maybe I'd understand. Maybe I could fix things." The truth hit me like a wave, crashing over everything I thought I knew. My husband had been watching us, not out of some malicious intent, but out of a twisted need for control, trying to fix something he thought was broken between us, without ever confronting it directly. But the more he talked, the more I realized how deeply broken everything truly was. "You thought spying on us would help?" My voice shook now, but I wasn't afraid to speak it anymore. The truth had found its way out, and it had shattered the illusion. "I didn't know what else to do," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was losing control of everything. And then I saw how you two were acting, and I thought maybe it was my fault. Maybe you were pulling away because of me." I couldn't believe it. The idea that he had been watching us, recording every moment, convinced that somehow this was his way of fixing things, made me sick. But there was something else too, a deep sadness in his eyes that told me this was more about his own fears than anything else. I stood up, taking the flash drive in my hand. "This ends now," I said firmly. "No more secrets, no more lies." My stepson looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and regret. "I didn't want it to go this far," he admitted quietly. "But now you know, and I think we all need to make a choice." I nodded. The storm outside had finally begun to settle, and so did the storm inside me. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. It wasn't going to be shaped by the lies or the secrecy anymore. Whatever came next, it would be a choice made honestly, with no more shadows between us. As the first light of dawn began to break through the windows, I realized that even though the storm had passed, the real work was just beginning, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could face it